Climbing is a lot about overcoming pain and fear. We're always doing these giant climbs where you're out there for sometimes 50 hours at a time, climb these huge mountains. It's cold, it's hot, whatever. There's so much pain and it's scary for most people. And so at some point I started to realize that I could use that to my advantage. It's like I almost had acquired a bit of a superpower or something.
Spartans, listen up.
We need to sleep better. So how do you sleep better? Never thought about it before. And so I met Jack, I met Essentia. Pay attention to the mattress you sleep on because it's loaded with chemicals.
Recovery, cooling, and pressure relief, all in one mattress. Up to 60% more deep and REM sleep. Less inflammation, faster bounce back. No toxins, no EMFs, no BS.
My buddy Jack over at Essentia, he's kind enough to give us a code for the Spartan community. That's DECA, that's top letter of all of us. Use Spartan25, get a discount. Prioritize your sleep so you can sleep faster, you can do more burpees, you can train more, you can get healthier. When you sleep well, you live well.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe DeSena here, CEO and founder of Spartan, host of the Hard Way podcast. I got a great one for you today. Tommy Caldwell, if you've seen Free Solo, this guy is in the documentary. He kept Alex Honnold alive. He's missing a finger. He was kidnapped. I can't tell you anymore. He's got to tell you. Welcome aboard, sir.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Joe.
So how'd you get into climbing? Let's go way back. How'd this happen?
My dad was a mountain guide. So he was bringing me out into the mountains from super young age. I mean, by 3, I was already getting out rock climbing. I was climbing big walls, which is what I do mostly now, starting at age 12. So it was like a family thing. We traveled around the Western United States. Most of my childhood, we traveled a little bit internationally, and we went rock climbing, which was really rare back then. Like people didn't do that with their young kids. My dad was everybody thought he was kind of batty. Nowadays, it's better understood and more accepted, and you do see a lot of families doing it.
You grew up in the 70s, 80s?
Born in 78.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, in Estes Park, Colorado.
Most people can't do a pull-up, and you're at 3 years old, you're climbing free solo walls.
What I do is free climb, which is a pretty confusing term. Like free climbing is what you do if you go into the climbing gym. You have a rope there, you climb the surface of the rock, but you have the rope there to catch you in case you fall. Free soloing means you don't have a rope, fall, you die. I mostly don't do that. Even Alex Honnold only free solos like some of the time. Like most people, it's not a good way to live a long life if you do a lot of that.
That's a great sentence. And you're an author as well.
Yeah, I wrote a book, a memoir called The Push, New York Times bestseller.
But would you say you're most known for being kidnapped?
No, I'm most known for climbing the Dawn Wall. I mean, the Dawn Wall was this big moment in climbing. It was like this thing that just captured the world's imagination. They published it on the cover of the New York Times like 7 days in a row about what we were doing. And the whole world follows the New York Times. So it was this thing that the climbing was kind of this seemingly small, and it was a bunch of things converging, honestly. Climbing was a relatively small sport. Climbing gyms were starting to go in all over the world. And so that was really helping the sport to grow. And there was a lot of interest. And then it was announced as an Olympic sport, so that garnered a little more. But then when the Dawn Wall happened, all of a sudden, like the world clued into it in this pretty amazing way that changed my life drastically. But also, kind of, I think most people would say it was pretty instrumental in changing the sport of climbing. And then the next year, Free Solo came out as a film. So yeah, the sport's been really quickly growing because of these things.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing in the documentary Free Solo, they talked about those 7 days in the New York Times, if I remember correctly, right?
Or the 7 days. The climb that we did took 19 days. So Free Solo is about Alex, spending a couple years preparing to free solo El Cap via the easiest route on the wall. The Dawn Wall, we didn't free solo, right? We used ropes, but it's like the hardest route on the wall. So it's a vastly different thing. Like we spent 19 days up on the wall, sleeping in portal edges, trying to climb something that was really hard, and 7 years preparing for it.
I asked I have two friends. One of them is president of Alibaba, and him and his brother won a gold medal for Canada in rowing. And I said, how was it? He goes, it was easy. He goes, for 7 years, I trained 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it sounds like that's what you guys did.
I mean, I've been climbing for 38 years or something like that. And so I've been training pretty heavily for most of that time. The Dawn Wall was really kind of unique because we were trying to do like a singular climb. Maybe you could compare it to an Olympian, right? Like they train for years for that moment in the Olympics. Nobody had really trained and tried to gather the knowledge and the skills to just do one route for 7 years. Usually they have a whole quiver of routes in their repertoire. We were really focusing in on this one thing, and that took 7 years.
That's crazy. And when you say training, what kind of like is the training the climbing every day, or is there actual training?
No, there's a lot of training. I mean, climbing is all about physicality, really. It's about both. That's one of the great things. It's both mental and physical. But we train. I train. Even though I'm not kind of in the peak of my physical climbing abilities these days, I still train or climb 4 to 5 days a week, like 5 hours a day. I also do these giant expeditions like that we go out and we're climbing for months, like 10, 12 hours a day for like a month. But that's hiking into the mountains, getting up a big mountain. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of fitness involved.
Where do you live now?
I live in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, nice. You live at a little bit of elevation?
A little bit, yeah. I grew up in Estes Park, Colorado, which is at 8,000 feet. So I grew up at elevation. Tahoe is at 6,000 feet.
So tell us about the kidnapping. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, so it was my first big international climbing expedition to the country of Kyrgyzstan. I was 21 years old. I actually turned 21 on the trip. And the kind of climbing that I do is big wall climbing. Oftentimes it takes several days. So we have these portaledges, like these hanging tents that we carry with us. We climb the walls. We set them up. You have to erect them like a tent, but hanging on the side of the cliff. And for me, it was like a big opportunity because I was kind of this struggling rock climber, really didn't have enough money to travel and do big expeditions. But the North Face, the clothing company in the North Face, decided to send a group of climbers to this place that was much like Yosemite, where I climbed, but in a more kind of exotic, remote location with a lot of opportunity for first descents. And so they sent. My girlfriend at the time was a North Face sponsored athlete, so she got invited and a few other people, and then I kind of talked my way onto the trip. And so they ended up sending four of us over there, and we helicoptered into this valley. We climbed for a week, and then we climbed about 1,000 feet up this wall one day and set up our portal edges. And then the next morning we awoke to gunshots, and there was a guy on the ground with a big long range assault rifle. We had these long range camera lenses, like these zoom lenses, because we were making media for the North Face. We could look down and see these people 1,000 feet below us, and they were shooting up. At first, we just thought they were shooting, but before long, bullets were actually hitting this roof of rock above our head, and we realized that they're like signaling for us to come down. So you can't really run away. Climbing's a pretty slow sport. We had to come down, and so we spent a couple of hours tying all of our ropes together and making it down, and where we were met by four rebels from a group called the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, and they took us hostage. And their mission is pretty complicated, but essentially it was like, they're like paving this trail through the mountains for opium trade to fund the Taliban, through these remote mountain valleys, and they just came across us and saw us as an opportunity. So they took us hostage. They took us back to our base camp. They raided our entire base camp, told us to pack everything up and pack backpacks, because we're going on a trek. And as we're kind of finishing these Kyrgyz helicopters moved into the valley, and we kind of found ourselves in the middle of this war between the Kyrgyzstan military and the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan. Yeah, once the war broke out, we had to drop everything and run with our captors. We ran down the valley for a mile or so, where we were met with the entire force of the Kyrgyz military. This huge battle broke out. We saw a Kyrgyz soldier shot point blank right in front of us. Had to hide behind this boulder as mortars were shot at us, and yeah, it was really intense. When it got dark, we were able to escape the scene of the battle with our captors still as hostages. And then we spent the next 6 days kind of hiding with no food, very little water, just trying to evade the Kyrgyz military as hostages. And then eventually on our last night, we had I mean, we're at 11,000 feet in elevation. We're on the verge of hypothermia. A storm was coming in. We thought we were almost certainly going to perish. And found ourselves up on this steep mountainside with just one remaining captor. The group had kind of gotten split up. And so it was just our opportunity to escape. So I shoved him off a cliff, and then we ran to safety.
Who were you with at that point in time when you shoved them?
So it was the 4 climbers. So myself, Beth Rodden, who was my girlfriend, John Dickey, and Jason Singer. And then originally there were 4 captors, but somewhere along the way, 2 of them kind of disappeared. We don't really know what happened to them. And then that last night, there was 2 captors. The main guy, this guy Abdul, and then this just 19-year-old hired mercenary. Things were getting pretty desperate. They didn't have any food either. We had lost tons of weight. And so the head guy, Abdul, decided to try and circle back to our base camp, probably to get food, and told us to climb straight up this mountainside, which he couldn't tell in the dark, but it was way steeper than I think he thought. He left, and we're just with this one 19-year-old hired mercenary climbing this really steep mountainside. 4 climbers, a non-climber with a big gun and, like combat boots on. And we were just way more prepared than he was for that situation.
It's a crazy, crazy story. And as you're telling it, I noticed you're missing part of your finger.
Yeah, that was later. That was about a year later. I chopped off my finger with the table saw. So just a home construction accident, which is like not uncommon. I might meet people like that all the time, but for a professional rock climber who's really trying to like push the limits, it's a huge setback. Like climbing, the style of climbing that I do, and really the physical forms of climbing are all about fingers.
I'm listening to all this, and I'm remembering my very tame days growing up in like construction and swimming pools, where everything that can go wrong goes wrong. But in your world, everything that can goes wrong goes really wrong. And somehow it sounds like, listening to you, like you build like an obstacle immunity almost. Like, all right, well, that rock wasn't good. Let's grab this rock over here. Oh, lost my finger. I got to deal. Oh, getting captive. I got to, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that? Do you feel like you've just got this ability to just brush this shit off your shoulders and kind of move forward?
And we just talked about the main things that go wrong in my life. Most of my life isn't about things going wrong, honestly. Like most of it, things have gone pretty well, I would say. It was just this period in my early 20s where I had some pretty major setbacks. But I got through them really well. Like if you take Kyrgyzstan, for instance, it was such an insanely intense, scary situation. And I would say the other 3 members of the expedition have, by their own admittance, have struggled pretty mightily, right? Like they have had PTSD. They, like Beth has been in and out of therapy, still talks about it to this day in terms of being hugely traumatic. And Jason Singer just kind of went off the map. It's like everybody like really struggled. I kind of didn't. Like I came out of it with confused for sure at first. I thought I'd killed someone. It turns out the guy lived, which was kind of crazy. Like I ended the expedition thinking I had just killed somebody, but he had stuck it on a ledge down there somewhere and was eventually captured by the Kyrgyz military. So really confused, wondering what this all meant, but ultimately kind of feeling like life was tangible. I had to live every moment to its fullest after that. Like when you really understand the value of life, a near death experience does that to you. And then I also had acquired these tools. Like climbing is a lot about overcoming pain and fear, right? Like we're always doing these giant climbs where you're out there for sometimes 50 hours at a time. You're climbing these huge mountains. It's cold, it's hot, whatever. There's so much pain and it's scary for most people. So the people who are best able to overcome that kind of thrive, at least in the adventure climbing world. For me, after Kyrgyzstan, pain and fear, it was like a total reset. Like climbing didn't seem that painful or that scary compared to what we had been through in Kyrgyzstan. And so at some point I started to realize that I could use that to my advantage. It's like I almost had acquired a bit of a superpower or something. And then also the ability to endure. Like I thought I knew what my limits were before Kyrgyzstan, but we went 6 days with like no food. We lost all this weight. It wasn't like sitting at home for 6 days. It was like we're in the high mountains, like in this rugged environment. We lost so much weight. We were teeth chattering, shivering, probably in and out of hypothermia. Like you would think that your body would just slowly degrade under those circumstances, which it mostly did. But on that last night, I had some sort of survival instinct kicked in. Like the adrenaline, from knowing that I had to like push this guy off a cliff. All of a sudden, like I had this incredible night vision. I had this clarity of thoughts. I had this energy, and I think it made me realize that my perceptions of what I was physically capable of were totally wrong. Like we have this survival instinct. We have this ability to go so much farther than I had thought I had previous to that. And that was also it was great knowledge to have moving forward. But it also created this curiosity. Like I think I've spent so much of my climbing since sort of trying to get back to that place to really understand how far we can go.
Yeah, I mean, not to compare it at all, but that's the reason we do what we do. We get people out for their first adventure off the couch, and just by climbing some ropes and crawling under barbed wire and being out there all day and getting muddy, it's like, oh my God, I can't complain at the grocery store anymore when there's no parking spot. You know what I mean? Like we change people's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and I think kind of ultra sports and endurance sports have gone so far in the past couple of decades. Like marathon used to be a long ways. Now people are running 250 miles, straight. It's like we're just understanding as humans that we can go so much farther than maybe we thought for a while. And that's pretty exciting.
What's next for you? Like what's you've done so much, you've survived so much. What gets you excited?
I mean, I'm like a little bit over the hump, like past my prime, I would say physically for like really hard, powerful types of climbing. So I'm getting more and more into endurance stuff and not just like not just like a day or two. Like I did a trip 2 years ago with Alex Honnold where we cycled all the way from my house in Colorado. We rode our bikes all the way to Alaska, sailed the inside passage, biked for 4 days into this really remote mountain, bushwhacked for 4 days into this really remote mountain called the Devil's Thumb, and climbed this big mountain. So I think in some ways the climbing itself, we've become so efficient at this that the mountains kind of aren't big enough for what we want to do anymore. And so you can go to the bigger mountains, like go to the Himalayas, but I'm not really interested in climbing things like Everest because it's just such a junk show. And then a lot of the other mountains are pretty dangerous. And I've had enough friends die that I want to find ways to kind of test my endurance a little bit closer to home. So doing things like biking all the way to Alaska to climb this mountain combines logistics and adventure and endurance and all these things that I really love. And so I do that. And then I'm also looking for things that also kind of raise awareness for the environmental issues, like Tongass National Forest, where the Devil's Thumb been a big logging fight for a long time. And so we make movies. This was a Nat Geo film we made called The Devil's Climb, and it makes people aware of these like vast, beautiful places that are under threat. So if I can combine all those things together, that's like the sweet spot for me.
We'll get you out to some of our big endurance races, and we'll help you raise awareness for what you're into. I love it. And it's close to my heart. I mean, that's where I come from. I didn't climb. I guess I wasn't strong enough, or I didn't have the parents smart enough to or bold enough to get me out there in diapers.
Yeah, it helps to start young, but I don't know if your parents let you astray by not taking you climbing. The sad that there's like so many great things about climbing. There's also a fair amount of tragedy. So
it seems like it seems like not if, but when, unless you're incredibly fortunate. For the folks sitting at home that are watching Tommy on TV and want to be a little more like Tommy, how do you deal with mindset? I mean, you're out there 50 hours, you're missing a finger, you're cold as hell, you're getting shot at. Like, what do you recommend for some mindset shifts for the average person?
I mean, for me, most of my mindset shifts, at least the most effective ones, have come from the people around me, the community. So I always say you just got to surround yourself with the people that inspire you. Like, if you're somebody who's into running 50 miles and suddenly you find yourselves around people that can run 100, suddenly you can just do that. It's crazy. Like, it's just a shift in perspective. So read the stories, spend time with these people, get involved in the events. It's all about proximity to the people that inspire you, I think.
I like that a lot. The ancient Spartans, I interviewed a professor in Sparta, and I said, how did they do it? Because they were such tough warriors. And he said they recognized very early in the development of that society that they had to be like-minded. And if they weren't like-minded, everybody wasn't bought in, it didn't work. I was with a SEAL Team 6 member recently, and he said when he was an active SEAL, it'd be 5 o'clock at night and they had a long day and they trained and they were fit as hell. And he'd sit down on the couch and he'd grab a beer and he'd turn the TV on, but out of the corner of his eye, he could see another SEAL going out for a third run that day. So he put the beer down, go outside, go run, right? Because it inspired, like they inspired each other, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's the biggest thing is find the community and be like Mike. Find the community that's doing the things you want to do, and before you know it, you're doing them.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of endurance is just a mindset thing. I think you get injured, you get little niggles in your legs and stuff, in your arms, and then you like learn just from being around people that actually you can just run your way right through that stuff, and your body is a magnificent tool that can really go so far.
I love that word. We got to make a T-shirt. Niggles.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a climbing thing. That's like the British use that in terms of like for a little injury. That means a minor injury.
Tommy, give us some big pointers. And I want to get everybody to read the book. I know you don't need it. It was already a New York Times bestseller, but give us some big points, big things to look out for in the book that are exciting.
I mean, I think that the cool part about the book is it really like walks you through the Dawn Wall, the 7-year journey and the 19-day ascent of the Dawn Wall, and kind of that is like the culmination of all the stuff that came before it. So you should also watch the film The Dawn Wall. There's a film called The Dawn Wall that is pretty similar to the book in terms of context, but just in film form. And that was that won Audience Choice at South by Southwest. That's a great movie.
How do people find you?
I guess probably the best way these days is on Instagram.
I'm pretty sure I watched it because as you were telling the story, I was like, I've seen that movie a while back. It was a good movie. Good work. Well, I'm honored. We're all honored to have met you. Thanks for coming on. And hopefully now our entire audience understands no more niggles.